Well, my name is Alexei, or Alex. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, baptized when I was 12 years old. I was raised in what would be considered a strong spiritual family. Two older brothers, obviously mom and dad. I went through the normal indoctrination, mostly when I was young and impressionable. Did a lot of study in the Bible Stories book. Dealt with all of the standard Jehovah's Witness kid troubles with going to public school, not celebrating birthdays, not celebrating holidays, and not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which, at this point, I don't care about that anymore anyway. But it was always, it always seemed like a means of separating me from my peers. So I felt very isolated growing up and spent a lot of time alone. As the years progressed, I realized that I had some serious depression and anxiety issues. My mom was very interested in getting me some real help to deal with those, like therapy and medication if needed. And my father was more on the side of, you need to cultivate a more personal relationship with Jehovah. And I think that's standard with a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, especially the men, the elders, the ministerial servants. Is that's their answer for everything. Your relationship needs to be stronger with Jehovah. So it's always something that you are doing wrong. You always have some kind of deficiency, spiritual deficiency, which was always troubling because even if you're trying your best, which I felt like I was, it's never good enough. And any kind of trouble that you're having, it's due to a lack of faith or due to a lack of a personal relationship with God. Obviously, I wanted it to feel normal. I wanted to hang out with friends from school. I couldn't do any of that. So I tried to make friends within the congregation or other congregations, but it seemed really just not genuine. It's kind of the same with dating as a Jehovah's Witness. You've got a very limited amount of people to choose from that you can really connect with. So I feel like you just pick whoever's there. And a lot of times it doesn't lead to any really lasting, strong relationships, I don't think. But it's always that whole thing where if you're feeling lonely, study more, do more of your Bible reading, go out and service more. You'll never hear the elders say, have you thought about seeing a therapist? Because that's contrary to their agenda. So it got really frustrating. And finally, I got a little bit older and I decided to become a pioneer because that's what you do.
Why do you think you decided to do that?
It was basically the same reason why I got baptized. I had two older brothers who had done it before me. And the idea of baptism and then after that becoming a pioneer is drilled into your head as the ticket to not only earthly happiness now, but it puts you in a prime spot for the paradise.
I think that point right there, it can't be mentioned enough about how selfish the individual selfishness in this religion is. Even, I feel like the whole idea of shunning, the thing that most ex-witnesses deal with that makes them activists is that they're doing it so they get to go to paradise. They're giving you the middle finger so that they get to go to paradise.
It is selfish. I think the entire premise of all of this is nothing but selfishness because you're not doing the right thing. You're not living a moral life. You're not being honest and genuine and kind because it's the right thing to do. It's because you either want to escape your punishment for not doing so or to gain the reward. And neither one of those things are moral reasons for doing anything, really. Since leaving, I've been in a situation where I've been broke and I've found a wallet full of cash, full of credit cards, gift cards. I needed the money, but I tracked down this guy's address and I gave it back, not because I was a part of a religion that taught me, if you do the right thing, then you will gain God's favor. It's because it's like, wow, this is a really shitty situation for this guy that lost this. How would I feel? He must be worried sick. So I got to do what I can to get this back to him. It's the right thing to do for the sake of doing the right thing. That's being human. We're a highly evolved primate because of that. Reasons why I decided to leave. I've been struggling with it for years. As I know, a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses go through this. It tends to take quite a while to pull the trigger, as I like to put it. There were a lot of factors, actually. One of the things is I felt like I was always somewhat of a rebellious kid, and I see that as a virtue instead of a negative trait, because I think that a little bit of rebellion causes you to ask questions, and asking questions is never a bad idea, especially when you're dealing with an ideology. I had this feeling like I didn't like being told what to do constantly. I was constantly told how to dress, how to wear my hair. I was being told by the elders when I needed to shave. Obviously, that doesn't happen to me anymore. Complete micromanaging of my life. I remember one time I was a part of one of those music subscription services, like BMG, Columbia House, and I got a shipment of 8 CDs. My dad saw that I got this package in the mail, and he feigned interest in my music just so that he could go through each one and look at it. He was like, "Oh, cool, what did you get? You got some music? Well, let's take a look." I was onto him. He wanted to know what I was listening to, because if you listen to the wrong thing, or if you watch the wrong movie, or if you talk to the wrong person even, then you're allowing Satan into your life, and it was just really oppressive. With all the study that I was doing of the Bible in itself, I mean, and this just isn't exclusive to the Jehovah's Witness faith, but I started having a lot of problems with some of the stories that I was being taught and that I was reading and learning about in the Bible. Some of these stories were very violent, very disgustingly violent. There was a lot of misogyny, rape, torture, murder, genocide. All of these are coming from a book that is supposed to be the perfect word of God, and God is love, and I started having some real honest issues with that. Anytime that you ask a question, if you dare ask a question, you either are lacking in faith or you're not allowed to ask that question. And that's a means of keeping their people highly insulated. I had always been interested in other religions as well, but I couldn't do research on other religions because reading their holy texts might influence my faith, or it might cause me to become weak, basically. They like that term. I was privy to some of the child sex abuse stories. One of those instances happened in my congregation, and that was extremely disturbing, and I didn't know how to reconcile it. I had all these questions, and I didn't know how to reconcile any of them, because it's supposed to be the truth. In my mind, all of these things were adding up. All the while, it was causing me more and more depression, more and more isolation. I had become suicidal at one point. I think that I had the clinical depression, but also, I guess if you want to say a theological depression, and I wasn't getting any answers. I wasn't getting any relief, and no matter how hard I tried, it wasn't letting up. It was never good enough. My efforts were never good enough. I became a pioneer. That didn't help. I reached out for more privileges in the congregation. That didn't help. I tried to reach out to friends. That didn't help. Nothing helped until finally I got to the point where it was like a light switch. I'm like, I gotta do it. I have to do it now. Like, I'm done. That's it. Do you want me to tell you about the moment that I left? Mm-hmm. Okay, definitely. So it was probably either the worst or the best moment for me to leave, because it was the weekend of a circuit assembly. The night before, it was a Friday night. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to go to meetings. I'm not going to go to the assembly this weekend. So I didn't. I stayed home and did whatever the hell I wanted to do on that Saturday while everybody else was at the assembly. That night, I got a call from one of my brothers, one of my biological brothers. I have to clarify that because of the terminology. And he was pissed. "Why weren't you there today? What's wrong with you? Are you sick?" I'm like, "No, I'm not sick. I just didn't feel like going." He's like, "What are you talking about? Why would you not want to go?" And this is the type of mentality when you miss something like a assembly. It's, you better be there unless you're dying. And I'm like, I've been struggling with this for a long time, and I thought that I could just kind of speak freely with him. He's my brother. He's my blood, we had finally got to the point where we're getting along and we're connecting on a human level. Well, that ended that day because instead of saying anything to encourage me or to motivate me or just to even listen, he shut down and he very aggressively told me anything that I do in my life from here on out, I'm going to fail. And that's a direct quote. And I was floored. I still don't know what to say about that. You know, I had this idea in my head that family was supposed to give you unconditional love, and that was the end of that. And it was that clearly defined in that moment, you know, like a razor's edge. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. And then I got off the phone with him, never talked to him again. That was 15 years ago. And then my oldest brother didn't even say anything to me. And he was the one that I always had a better relationship with. The one that I was on the phone with, we were always at each other's throats growing up because we were closer in age, I guess. But I always had a good relationship with my oldest brother. So I thought maybe I could reach out to him after the dust settled a little bit and just say hi. And he never talked to me again, never responded to any of my calls, nothing. In fact, there were times that I would see him and he would literally hide from me. Which, I mean, it's childish and it's tragic and all, but I do find a little bit of humor in that, you know, and I have to, I really do, because we're grown men at this point, and we share DNA, the same blood, and I've never done anything horribly malicious or anything. And you're hiding from me. Like, I'm not going to infect you with my apostasy.
Like you've got some gun. You're going to shoot him with
yeah, like you're... That's the apostasy gun. It's fully automatic, too. You're doomed.
You should just embrace it and yell, like, run for your life!
I should have just
run
had it...
forever, that's your life!
I should have just had fun with it. I should have made a game out of it. Because you don't really know what to do with all of that. And I was dealing with a lot of firsts. You know, I never had, you know, a member of my immediate family say something so cold and callous to me just because I don't necessarily believe in what he believes in. It's not wrong.
Most families are like that.
Yeah, and it's tragic, and it's not just Jehovah's Witness families that do that too. And every time I see that or hear that, I'm like, come on, like, you don't have to agree on everything. Just be a family.
Right.
You know, like, love is not about agreeing. A lot of humanity just wants everybody to agree with what they believe. And as a parent, you know, I'm really trying to avoid that. You know, I'm trying to not let the pendulum swing in the other direction and indoctrinate my kids with my atheism. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, the best case scenario is to have my children grow up to be free thinkers. And being a free thinker does not mean being an atheist. It means deciding what works best in your life, regardless of outside influence. I would like to believe that if they grow up and they come to me and say, hey, Dad, like, I've been learning a lot about Christianity or Islam or, you know, Buddhism or anything really, then I would want to know first why they believe that, why they're interested in it objectively, and accept their decision and support them. I just want my kids to be free. I want my kids to have the opportunities that I never had. I don't want them to feel stuck in somebody else's ideals.